Of course, several people have already been talking concerning what we'll be discussing tonight. Let's take a look at what has been said so far. We have Kwizera Samuel, who is actually already sharing his thoughts on the outgoing parliament, and he says, I would like to thank the parliament for their work on the labor laws and the minimum wage. Definitely this is what he is thankful for. Would like also to hear from you. What are you thankful for, and what would you like to see in the incoming parliament? Of course, Rutembesa tweet says that they are in parliament only to satisfy their party's agenda. That's one of the cons. Definitely this is a response to one of the tweets that we tweeted out there concerning the MPs who are not representing particular constituency, but they are actually elected on party tickets with seats allotted proportionately according to the votes garnered by the political parties. Would love to hear your thoughts concerning that as well. Kwizera Samuel says that my question is, why is it that every time a leader is asked to come to the parliament, the same answer is actually aired on the radio? Quote unquote, the answer given are satisfying. This is what he feels the MPs usually say, even when there is no settlement. Of course, we'll be able to hear from our panelists on this particular issue over there. Definitely start tweeting. The hashtag, as always, is InFocusRW. I'll be coming back to sample those tweets in the course of the program. But in the meantime, let me introduce our panelists on the program. We have Honorable Juliana Kanengwa, who's actually the outgoing member of parliament. I'm told that probably, tonight might be the last day or the life of this current parliament. Congratulations for serving, and thank you for being with us on In Focus.
Thank you very much.
Also with us is Eric Mahoro, who's from the civil society Never Again Rwanda. Thank you for joining us, Eric.
Thank you.
Also with us is Mama Josephine Uwamaria, who's actually the country director, Action Aid International Rwanda. Thank you for joining us on the program. We also have the referee, actually, who is the National Electoral Commission in this process, Charles Munyaneza. Thank you so much, the Executive Secretary of the National Electoral Commission. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Let me just start very quickly with Honorable Juliana. Of course, you have had a roller coaster ride, of course, throughout the years or the life of this parliament. And the key question that always comes to mind when anybody is talking about the Rwandan parliament has always been the numbers of the women. And it beats no logic without asking you, how was this number, or how have the numbers of the women representatives in parliament led to the style of parliamentarian politics in Rwanda? How did it change it, comparing from the previous parliaments and what we've seen in this parliament that had 64% representative of women?
Thank you. I think I would have been more comfortable if I got it from third parties. As a participant.
From inside, I want to hear you speaking from inside. How did it change?
It would be difficult for me to gauge what the kind of changes that took place. I know what changed, but I would have wanted to listen to what other things changed. Anyhow, I'm fortunate in that I was in parliament before we were a majority, and then I've been there as we were increasing in numbers up to the recent numbers. But I can say that over the years, there has been an increasing focus on issues that affect women. And these ones, we were bringing them to the fore. May not have come out as much as people would think, because with more numbers of women, we're not only going to represent women, we're not only going to focus on women issues.
Yes.
Because our constituency was not pure women. So we try to balance, but all in all, we think we did raise issues that concern women and children. It goes without saying. And we also feel that over the years, the men that sit with us got more sensitized. And as I'm talking now, I don't think in terms of sensitivity to the issues, I don't think that it's easy to differentiate a male from a female voice with regard to the concerns of issues concerning women and children, unlike when we were beginning. When we were still fewer women, you could hear a lonely voice raising issues, and then maybe some not so many supportive men. But today, I think the men that have been in parliament have seen a greater transformation than anybody else.
Transformation has been seen by virtue of the fact that we had more women.
Yeah, that's
in
what
the
I
House.
think. That's what I think.
That's what you think. What do you think, Eric? What sort of change do you think these numbers brought to parliamentarian politics in this country?
I mean, in terms of women, the first thing we can all look at is the inspiration that it gives out to the people. I can imagine my daughter watching the parliament today and looking at all these women representing the citizens of Rwanda into the parliament. I mean, it certainly brings out a totally different feeling.
How do you scientifically prove that? That there are young ladies who have been inspired by looking at Honorable Juliana in Parliament and said, I also want to be an MP?
I mean, in our work, we meet with various kinds of young people working into different sectors, and this is one of the things you get, like having this understanding that women can also be there and they can do a good job. Of course, we certainly get some different points of views as well, because it's not about having women seated in the parliament.
Yes.
It's how these women advance the issues concerning women. Of course, I understand from Honorable here that this job has been done, but that's an add to other responsibilities the parliamentarians have as well. But maybe also looking at how able has this parliament been able to mentor other people, maybe other young ladies in the community.
Do you have answers to those questions that you're raising? Do you think they mentored? Did you see them going on the ground, with just that sole purpose of coming to mentor other young girls and women to also be able to vie for these positions?
Huge issue, because what we are seeing right now is mainly the parliamentarians going out to seek to consult the citizens about some issues, or oftentimes also providing information on the projects that are going on there and what is being done to get their voices. But the discussion we've been having also includes the fact that we may want to see more mentorship.
Right.
I understand things have really changed it to the better. We can see some increment in terms of how women are understanding their responsibilities in the political matters. And I would confidently say that one of these is because we are having these women into the positions. Okay. Otherwise, there is no other way you can get people to be confident of themselves.
Okay. Mama Josephine, I mean, is it just about the numbers? It's important that we put those numbers on the dissecting table. And of course, sometimes people say that it's unfair to actually push this question or this issue just because we had more women in parliament, then we expected them to perform more. What about the male folk, in this sense? Are we being too unfair to the female parliamentarians, especially when we start questioning and scrutinizing whether they did perform or did not perform? Are we being unfair to them?
I think, well, on one hand, you are being very unfair to the women folk. But on the other hand, I think you are justified.
At least it has two sides of the coin.
Yeah, because the numbers should actually lead to substantial contribution. But the good thing is that this parliament, the representation does not go by gender or what. When they are in parliament, they are discussing issues. They are not discussing the aspect of gender. They are not they are not being pushed because they are women. They will actually talk about these issues from the women perspective. But on the other hand, when it comes to women issues, they should actually push harder so that the issues are addressed.
Do you think they pushed harder?
They tried, but there's a lot to do. So for me, when I look at a parliament we want, particularly the incoming parliament, it should push harder on issues that affect women. When we look, actually the thing is that the issues affecting women have some cultural tendencies, and the mindset cannot just change overnight. So it's the women, or it's we women, that should be able to support our male folk to understand that the burden women carry is far different from the men's burden. When we talk about the unpaid care work or unvalued work, which takes all the time of the women, they don't have that, particularly those in the rural areas, they don't have the time to do even productive work. So for me, in the coming parliament, it should be pushed.
Yes.
Recognition and redistribution of such a work.
Right.
So that the men and the women, some of the women actually change the mindset to realize the burden on the women actually affects their productivity, affects their contribution to the national development.
And you believe that this can only be driven home, or this point can only be driven home, if the women in parliament push this agenda?
For me, if they push the agenda, then the male folks will actually consider it as, oh, actually, it is a real burden. But if it is, the burden will not be realized if those that feel it
don't speak about
actually
it.
don't speak about it.
Right.
If they don't speak about it, then they are actually not representing the actual issues that are affecting the women who make the majority of the Rwandan population.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the question, actually, Anangwe, because why are we saying that this particular group of people, or these particular representatives of some categories of Rwandans in the parliament should push an agenda, while we say they are actually there to serve the interest of all the Rwandans.
Let's hold that thought, but let's bring in also Charles here, because he's been keenly listening and taking his notes. But before you dive deep into whatever is already being talked about here, could you paint for us a picture? Because earlier this week, of course, if I'm correct, if I go by what my teachers taught me, a new week starts on Sunday. So I'd say last week, you did announce a provisional list of those who will be able to, sail through this election. Paint for us a picture of what is happening at the National Electoral Commission's headquarters. I know right now the lights are off, guys are sleeping, but in the sense of the preparations for this exercise.
Yeah, thank you, Eugene. I can see that everybody is on board now, even judging from what my colleagues have been saying.
Right.
And that encourages us at the Electoral Commission. We are encouraged that we are with the partners, including people from the civil society, outgoing members of parliament, the media, all of us is on board. So I can say we're almost done. We are now almost 27 days to go. And that means a lot to us who are in the area of preparation for these elections. 27 days is not a very long period of time. And this also goes to the people who intend to start campaigning and who start soliciting for votes. So we are done, as I can say. As you said last week, on 30th of November, I mean this month, we shall be announcing tomorrow the final list of candidates. And from that, of course, we shall be going to campaigns, which starts on 13th of August. And that means that the whole country will be in high gear in terms of preparing for these elections. And judging from what I have seen, we are encouraged by the number of people coming up to vie for the 80 seats in the parliament. We received 537 aspiring candidates.
537 vying for 80 seats.
537 vying for 80 seats in parliament. And you can see the ratio. And out of those 537, 61% of them were women. For us, of course, I will not discuss what my colleagues have been saying.
Right.
But for us, that shows that what we have been educating Rwandans through our electoral civic education programs, we are really getting fruits from it. And judging from what I saw, young people. And by the way, I think we are going to see a different parliament, judging from the people that we have seen. I've been going through the files, looking at the age brackets. I'm looking at a very, very young parliament coming up.
Right. That sounds like the lecturer marking
Yes.
your assignment and really
Yes.
giving a positive outlook of what to expect.
Yes.
Can you steal for us, just at a glance, what sort of parliament then are you looking at coming after this election, parliamentary election?
I've just said that looking from what I see from
Yes.
the files that we have received at the Electoral Commission, we are going to see a young parliament. Secondly, I've seen that we are going to see very many new faces in parliament. Looking at the outgoing parliament, and we compare it to what we can see, we are going to see a young parliament with very many new faces, and that shows a lot of political maturity that we have been building over time. Even when you look at the lists provided by political parties and political organizations, you can see that there has been that deliberate move to make sure that we have got young people there. We've got a balanced list of aspiring candidates. You see women, you see men, you see young boys, you see young girls coming up. And then when you look at these specific categories, you look at the youth,
The
you look
disabled,
at the
yes.
disabled, you look at the women, you get encouraged. You get encouraged when you see in one province alone, you have 62 candidates, from which we are only going to get 6 out of 62. And that's very, very, very good, encouraging development. And that shows that people are coming out and getting the value of competition, political competition.
Right.
And to us, that's very important. It's going to give us some good work to do.
Some good work to
Some
do,
good work to do.
and also some sort of, point where you say to those critics who say that Rwanda's politics is non-competitive, you point that to them.
Certainly, that for us, we've got a challenge, a positive challenge of providing an equal playing field for these people. Because when we talk about 537 candidates vying for 80 seats, of course, each one of them wants to be a member of parliament.
Sure. Right.
And it is up to us in the Electoral Commission to make sure that everybody plays in an equal playing field. And the second, as you are saying, that shows the width of the playing field that we are talking about. If anybody can come and say, I want to be a member of parliament. I saw young girls. In fact, even when we closed, we were supposed to close on 25th at 5 p.m. But when I saw people coming after 5 p.m., even on the next day, some of them were almost crying, begging us to receive their files. But because
So
we had
actually
to,
they got mentored.
yes, and that shows what they have been saying.
Right.
That level of inspiration, that level of encouragement, where people can say, no, I can also be a member of parliament and
Right.
contribute to the development of this country.
Right.
And that's very important for us. And the rest depends on how we are going to
move from there.
move from there.
I mean, Honorable Juliana, it's interesting because sometimes when you look at Rwanda's way of doing things as far as parliamentary elections are concerned, you compare with what happens in the region, it's way different. In the region, for example, Kenya, they represent constituencies. They go out and they battle it out for party nominations, and then they now go to the debe, as they call it, the ballot box. In Rwanda, some critics of this system feel that people don't vote for direct people. I mean, the contestants or the candidates. They vote for the party, and then guys are distributed those positions based on the list. How, based on your own experience going through this process, what are the pros and cons of this model, in your own opinion?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I go to the pros and cons of the models of this is proportional representation,
Yes.
which we've opted to go for, and then constituency-based politics. Before I go to that, I just wanted to tie in with what my colleague mentioned about us having not done enough inspiration of the young
mentorship,
people,
yes.
and then it becomes straight away a little bit contradictory from what Mnyaneza said. Let's just remember that we've been building a certain momentum since the beginning, and we've reached a certain point in time. So we just don't look at the surface. Let's start from where let's go back where we started as we were building the momentum, and we've reached here. And we see what we've been doing. These young women have come up precisely because of the entire process, the journey we've been walking along with them. But coming quickly to what you're saying, the pros and cons. Constituency-based politics, there's that feel. The Kenyan way, Siku feel. They feel, they're representatives.
They are accountable to the Mwananchi.
Exactly. And that's what, there's that perception that they are actually accountable to them. And the competition also, it becomes very hot, and some people lose their lives and the like. In Rwanda, before we came to that, it just did not land from nowhere. Before we came to choose proportional representation, we were aware that there is constituency-based politics. But whatever is done in Rwanda, even the way people walk, it has a bearing on our very past. We've had time to go into conflict. We've fought. People have died. We've had a genocide in Africa committed by Africans. We haven't seen it elsewhere on the African continent. The genocides were committed by others, but not by Africans. So what I'm trying to say is that in Rwanda, we've gone all the way to the extreme.
Yes.
And we're back. In being back, we've deliberately set up a system where we want to never again. Are we going to behave the way we behaved? Never again are we going to go back. Never again are we going to meet any challenging situation that will drive us back. So in so doing, because of the past divisionism, we realized that proportional representation would
Is
best
the way to go
suit
for
us.
Rwanda.
And that's what the population voted for in our constitution, voted in 2003 and as amended by the referendum of the 2005. So that is the system we've chosen. And choosing it, it enables us, Rwanda not being so huge, it enables us to represent the entire country. For instance, I personally was being elected from the Eastern region by the famous Gatsibo district, let me say, because I owe them a lot.
Yes.
But I've been representing the entire country on certain issues which are close to my heart, and I've been driving them forward just like my colleagues were doing. So you find if we're talking about provision of, say, increasing the number of primary schools, we looking at the entire spectrum of the country.
Collective
yeah,
effort.
it becomes collective. And then we don't go into petty fighting, me pulling to my place, and we're looking, we're looking at the issues of equality. Are we, is District X as well covered as District Y? So we do it that way, not just looking at my own. We're looking at the entire country, and we would want to bring that's inclusivity, so that the entire country comes up at the same time. So that's where proportional representation becomes good. For constituency-based politics, you find each one goes, if you have a better member of parliament in terms of how he or she may be able to
Articulate issues.
Also attract and slice off the national cake. He or she takes it to his constituency. You find constituency X has running water and electricity, and constituency Y has nothing.
They can compete on that level.
They can compete.
Say, why are you not providing for us?
Politics is not as straightforward as that. Some members will naturally outcompete others on that. And some regions will be underdeveloped, less than others. And I don't need to cite examples for you. Just think of any country in the neighboring region that uses it. You will have examples. But in Rwanda, you will find a certain Murenje X has the same number of secondary schools, has the same number of primary schools as Y. Just think of any place. Roads, we're talking about the same. Electrification, we're talking about the same. You know, anything.
So these people who say that this actually serves you go there serving the interests of your party and not the people, they are wrong when they say that. Because there's a tweet that someone tweeted and said when they go to parliament in that system, they're just serving the interests of the party that put them in the list.
I wish to clarify a little bit on that. No, it's not true. It's yes and no. Interest of the party, if you come representing a party, you surely must represent that party. That's the bargain. The party has certain slots, it has won certain seats, it puts you forward to go and present it, you have to represent it.
Right.
But what are we talking about when we're saying interest of the party? We're putting forward the manifesto that the Rwandans have opted to choose for. They think Manifesto X stands out better than
Manifesto
for
Y.
Y. And they choose it. So it's my responsibility, my cardinal responsibility as a representative of Party Y
To defend
to ensure that that manifesto that the Rwandans have chosen is really brought forward.
Right.
So that's it.
Fair enough. I mean, let's talk about the pros. I mean, of constituency-based. Would it work here in Rwanda?
What I have to
If we do the checks and balances of the weaknesses that it envisions in other East African countries, would it work for us?
Sure. Let me first say that each context is very particular. And as Honorable Juliana is saying,
Yes.
we are a post-genocide context. Myself, working on some issues with the post-genocide reconstruction, I understand the parliament has to represent the Rwandans, and, or at least to foster the unity and reconciliation among the Rwandans, which is crucially important.
Yes.
However, when we talk about the issues of constituencies, I think there can be alternatives, even in a context like Rwanda. One, I really have to say we have seen a lot of critiques from the young people regarding their effective representation in the parliament. Not saying that we don't have youth representative. It's a good thing. We've been having youth representative. But the level of consultation, those people representing particular groups of people have is still considerably very low. And this is a risk because excuse me for using the terminology, but I think having people considered to represent everyone may end up consulting no one. And of course, I disagree with the ones saying that our MPs represent the party, the interest of the parties, because most of our political parties represent the interest of our citizens. This is my view. However, we run a risk of seeing these representatives of certain categories. For instance, women, we still do this. We still have those seats which exist for those particular categories. So we run a risk of seeing these not representing them while we actually send them to the parliament for that own sake.
Right.
So I really think we need to look into going beyond representing all the Rwandans, which all of us are very proud about, by engaging our citizens, engaging these various
So you want to
constituents.
see more engagement?
Certainly.
As opposed to just saying we represent all Rwandans.
Certainly, otherwise, what's the point of having those particular categories, which we are aware of? And the other point, Eugene, is research. We're not seeing a lot of research being commissioned by our parliament. We know that our MPs in the various standing committees cannot be aware of everything. However, they should at least carry research or commission researchers which help them to be informed, or at least work with the institutions which are conducting researches. Otherwise, that's why you see an official coming to present certain matters, and people get satisfied. So
Because
it's
they
good
don't
to be
understand.
satisfied, but this
very
needs
interesting.
to have.
I want you to digest that, Honorable Juliana, as I go to Mama Josephine. Just digest that. Of course, it will be important to come back on that because it beats the logic. Then, when you are actually going to consult, what sort of research do you base on when you come up with the decision to come? I mean, in the 2013 parliamentary election, 103 candidates did run. I mean, if I get that wrong, it is good to correct me. But of course, from the for the 24 women's seats that were actually available during that particular time, and as a group, these women candidates encountered financial obstacles to reaching women in all the community levels. As individuals, the women candidates faced a balancing act of professional and personal responsibilities, which we don't have to even go into details with. Based on the performance of the outgoing parliament, which I think Honorable Juliana will also be able to respond to this later, do you feel that they have been able to do some sorting out of these challenges 5 years down the line that would enable the new ones who are going to be facing these people as they campaign to be able to have an easy ride, because they came before us, faced that challenge, and when they went into the House, they actually cleared the path for us? Do you think this has happened 5 years down the line?
Before I come to that, let me say something on representation. Representation is good, and considering our context, it should continue. But when we are doing the actual consultations,
yes,
let's do consultations on all the issues, not just all the general issues. No, as I said, women issues should be consulted on, and they should be discussed. They should be regulated if they have to be regulated. The mindset should be changed if it has to be changed. No, for it, it must be changed. So that the burden the women are actually facing, you know, when they face the women face the burden, it is not just on the women. It affects the family, it brings about gender-based violence, it brings all that. So when those issues are not addressed, so coming to representation, yes, let it be national representation, but the specific issues must be addressed, given due consideration. Because if you don't address them, then we risk actually undermining or overturning the
efforts that were made.
The efforts that have already been made.
Yes. From the tone that you're using, you seem not satisfied by the performance of the House where Honorable Juliana was in. In which areas do you feel the representation did not?
I'm satisfied.
No, don't be diplomatic. It's okay.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
Because even using my tone,
yes,
it actually shows that I'm not diplomatic.
Yes.
Particularly on women issues.
Yes.
Because these women issues are not, they are not of today. They've actually been there for long, for centuries. It's the patriarchal tendency. So the patriarchal tendency and the patriarchal issues should be addressed. If we have to have equal access, equal benefit from all that we are doing.
What patriarchal issues didn't the House address that you want the new House to address?
The one on change of mindset on sharing the burden the women have back at home. I think even Juliana, as an individual, might be facing the same. Other than me or the other woman in the rural areas.
Yes.
So those, when we talk about those issues, they start saying, but those are the issues that we have dealt with. Why can't they be dealt with once and for all?
Once and for all.
So let them be dealt with. Because that burden, as I said, actually influences and affects the productivity of the majority of the women. For us who are in the offices, when we are in the office, all is well. But when we go back to our houses, the burden comes back. You'll find me, if I go with my partner, if I have a partner,
yes,
I'll go back. Maybe we even go in the same vehicle. You'll sit just listening to the news and watching the news, and me, I'm expected to
go back and cook.
To go back and cook. Maybe I have a maid who has cooked, but then I'll be expected to see that what has been cooked is good for my husband.
Or your husband says, I never eat
Yes,
a maid's
I
food.
never eat a maid's food. Why? We've been to office together. We've been to work together. Why don't we share? Why don't you even recognize the burden that I have come with from the office?
So this is what
like
you want
Yes,
the next
that's
parliament
what
to
I
go
want
on the ground.
The next parliament to go on the ground and actually look at those very issues and have them addressed. And they may not be addressed actually by law.
Yes.
But let them oversee or at least look at the programs that are there that the government, the other arm of the government is actually putting in place to address those issues.
Right.
So back to the representation.
Yes.
So representation is as important as has been stressed by my colleagues, but let the representation be driven by the issues that have been fully researched, that consultation has actually been done, fully done, so that we don't take issues as general issues. No.
Right.
Some of them are actually not general issues, particularly the women-related issues.
Right. I don't know how possible it is, Munyaneza, if I could be able to tell you to take off the hat as the referee and now speak as a Rwandan who actually lives within this same society that these MPs represent. What areas do you think the outgoing parliament could have done better in?
Well, even before I went to the Electoral Commission, I was a Rwandan.
Yes, yes.
And when I go back home,
Yes, you're still a Rwandan.
I'm a Rwandan staying in one of the thousands of villages that you have in Rwanda.
Yes.
So the issues that affect Rwandans are also
Issues that affect you, yes.
But let me first talk about the proportional
Model.
representation and the winner takes all, as some people call it. Let's remember that this kind of electoral system that were adopted, as Honorable Juliana was saying, emanated from our own experiences. And it goes with the fundamental principles in our constitution, principles of political inclusion, principles of national unity and reconciliation, and the principles of having Rwandans participate in the management of their country. Whereby when you take the other constituency type of system, you find a lot of exclusion. And we have seen that, I'm saying this as a person who is versed with these electoral systems. You find a lot of, in many incidences, a lot of corruption, a lot of political corruption. When you go to this constituency type, you find a lot of fight for survival. Some people have seen being elected or not being elected as part of somebody's life. When you lose in a constituency type of election, you find that you have almost lost your life. But in this kind of system of ours, where we've got this proportional representation, you find somebody, almost everybody is on board. And I think this has contributed a lot. And it has reduced the tension, the friction, and the fighting during elections. And it is not by surprise that we've got peaceful elections in Rwanda. And it is principally what I think Rwandans thought when they chose this type of proportional representation as against the other constituent-based elections. And as somebody who is dealing with it, somebody who is also working with my colleagues outside Rwanda, you know, managing elections in such circumstances, I find the benefit of having this kind of
Model.
In fact, it's not only for Rwanda. In fact, for most of African countries. I would wish that most of African countries, at this stage of political development, looks at this seriously, because I've seen elections coming and destroying the fabric of our African societies, simply because we have not taken time to look at ourselves and choose what is best for us. And I would wish most of our African colleagues can sit back and look at this, because these are systems that have been imported from foreign constitutions. Now, coming to going parliament as a Rwandan, but I still have the two hats on, because we have also been doing some kind of consultation, going around the country, I said we've been having programs, civic education programs. In the last parliament, 2008, between 2008 and 2013, we had problems educating and sensitizing people why they should go and cast their votes. They used to tell us, no. After all, we don't know these people.
Right.
We don't know even the importance of having a parliament. We don't even know the faces of these people.
These people.
These people have not been coming to us. This is what it is. Most of citizens were telling us. But I can tell you this outgoing parliament has been in touch with the population in many ways. Honorable Juliana was telling you, I think she has traveled in all the districts. She has been meeting people in Umuganda, in Ekweza Baturaje, Mugorowa w'ababyeyi. These people are always there. And the feedback that we are getting as we go around right now, educating the people and sensitizing them to come out and vote, at least they say, at least we have been seeing our members of parliament. And to us, this is an encouragement. And as I said, looking at the number of people who now want to be members of parliament, it is also a sign that people have come to appreciate what parliament can do and what parliament has been doing.
Perfect. I think it's only fair that actually Honorable Juliana gets the right of reply to the point that was made by Eric about the issue of the lack of research and probably insinuating that the MPs usually take whatever they are told when they summon anybody because they have not done the research. Probably those issues, they don't even know what it means.
Okay, let me chip in. Maybe before Juliana says, I love the idea of research, but I don't like this classic academic kind of research. Sometimes you can do it and come out with wrong answers to real questions. So maybe Honorable Juliana would say something about it. When I see members of parliament joining the population in Umuganda, for instance, this community work, and after that community work, they sit together, they start discussing their local problems and even propose some local solutions in the presence of these members of parliament, in the presence of local councillors.
That in
to me,
itself
I
is data
think that's a
collection
very,
and
very
research.
big aspect of research. Let me hope my colleagues, when they talk about research, they are not only talking about this academic research, but also giving consideration to this direct contact with
Let's hear from the horse's mouth.
Thank you very much. Actually, let me start off by saying I'm very excited that I'm leaving Parliament. One, because of this...
Was it too much for you to
No,
handle?
no, because it's an exciting period in my life, an exciting period in the entire country's life to be part of what's going on. I've been part of what's going on in another perspective, but now I would want to join them. When you see a young man like him making such demands, you know, if you listen to the entire table, it's pricking, and I love it. Why do I love it? Because it shows how far we've come. It shows the momentum we've built. The demands that are very demanding.
There's high expectation.
Exactly. And this is what we've been building all along. So I'm very happy that he's at that level. And I would wish that the incoming ones, because Munyaneza told us quite a number of young ones,
yes.
I hope they are going to be his
You think
type.
they can handle
because
the fire?
that means we've been building something and we're reaching somewhere. So I'm very happy that we've reached there. It's a score. Then coming back to briefly about the issues that were raised across. Again, to proportional representation, I think it's no wonder that some of the countries in Southern Africa that are using proportional representation are the ones that see peaceful elections.
Transitions and elections.
Yes. I just to complement what my colleague Munyaneza was saying. And coming back to research, let me give an example of the most recent, the bill that was, the last one we passed concerning the new taxation for the revenues for the
Property owners.
for the local government entities. The initial draft, if I may say it, from the executive, the proposal was initially the taxation, we were going to tax each and every property. The idea of an individual's your domicile, the house in which you live
in, yes.
being exempted from taxation was a development from Parliament. It was a push from Parliament. They removed that. Then also
But some people still feel that actually
It's not
that's
enough.
part of, yes, I mean,
Yeah.
it's retrogressive in the sense of pushing for accessibility of affordable housing.
What we're talking about, and what we're
You
talking
must
about,
balance.
Let's actually finish, yes.
You must balance.
Yes.
You need electricity. You need tarmac everywhere. Each one is saying, no, even us, we need a tarmac road. You see the entire Kigali city, the way it is coming. Where does the money come from? You want us to go and beg where they're putting on sanctions and whatever because we cannot put on second-hand clothes?
So the landlords were the best target based on the research.
Where are you going to get the money if you cannot get it from the property you have? I mean, we're looking at the kind of the structure of our economy and where we can broaden our tax base. That is how far we can go. Don't forget the limitations we have as a country also. We try to make a balance. We remove this, but at the same time ensure that the local governments can run.
Can survive.
Yeah, can survive. So that's one example I'm giving. And how did we know about it? When we were moving around the countryside, as Mnyaneza put it, people are coming up with the issue of, you see, the moment the local Njanam, the local councils, established the boundary of Igishushanyo Mbonera, they call it, the district master plan or the town master plan, and you happen to fall in there, immediately you were being taxed. And people were coming to a point where the taxation, the tax amount they owed
Yes.
the government was even going beyond the value of their land. So this one, we've said, no. Unless they've developed it, if there's no development, the mere fact that you are part of the master plan does not, it should not enable the tax collectors to come and collect tax from you, unless they've given the infrastructure that enables your land to appreciate, whereby you can also make money out of it. We know that land in Rwanda is a hot cake. It's selling, it's appreciating everywhere.
Yes.
So the moment they add infrastructure, there's a tarmac road by, there is water supply, there's electricity, then your land appreciates. If it could go for 1 million, maybe it jumps to 20, 30, 40 million. Then that way you can be taxed, and surely you can afford that. So that is where we got to know about it. And the person where there is no infrastructure, we said, no, waive it off. It is still farming land. And if you have a farming land that is more than 2 hectares, that's when you're going to be taxed minus the 2 initial hectares. And we know there are not many Rwandans who have more than 2 hectares. Right. So when he says we don't do research, we actually do research, but we don't publish those huge books of research and being in a laboratory, but we do research. The moment you see an old woman saying, no, I'll tell the president, because she's seen you, she's met you, or tells you, go and tell the president, I'm going to do this and that.
Yes.
You know, that is research. What is research? Right. Research is information. Right. You know, getting out
gathering
information, gathering that information. Yeah. So I think the young man, I'm very happy about the way he's pushing, and it shows that out there they're pushing.
Right.
And I think Mr. President should be able to hear about this because he really wants the Rwandans to be demanding, and I think we've succeeded in making Rwandans hunger for
Before
more.
he comes in, he seems he wants to rebuttal that. But before he comes in, there was a tweet in the beginning of the program where someone was saying that most of the time when you summon these leaders to these committees, we are satisfied.
Yeah.
It's
Actually,
like toothless. You can't do much.
Let me get back also to the young people. I would want actually to make a passionate appeal to them, a plea that they get interested in following what's happening. When a bill comes to Parliament, they need to understand the process in which to go through. Even the critics of Rwanda, they say the Rwandan Parliament is not agitative because we don't throw desks at each other.
Yes, and water.
Actually, when a bill comes to Parliament and a government minister presents that bill, we decide whether it's going to add value to what's happening in Rwanda or not. That's the stage they call it opportunity. You know, once we find that it adds value,
Yes.
we accept it and it is sent to a respective committee
Right.
that goes into the nitty-gritty
Right.
of each and every aspect, and the concerned people are, that's the consultation stage.
Right.
Even when necessary, when we find we are deficient, we pause and go out to the field. We pause and hold seminars to understand fully. So we do all this. And the way the bill changes at the end of the story, it never happens elsewhere. In other countries, especially the constituency-based ones, once a bill comes, there's that portion that is government side, there's a portion that is on the
Opposition
opposition,
side.
then each one pulls to the other.
Just for the sake of
for the
the
sake
side
of
that
it.
they are.
For us, I come from the ruling majority, I call it, because I come from the Rwanda Patriotic Front, which is in, I call it the ruling majority because everybody in Rwanda is inclusive and we are part of the ruling party for that matter. Rather, all of the parties are included in the entire government. So I say I come from the ruling majority. When a bill comes to Parliament, I don't say, no, FPL tell me what I'm going to do. If I think that it's not, there is where it's not working out for the citizens, from the information we've gathered, from what we hear from the interest groups, I raise it. And a member from a different party does not consider that because Juliana has said it and she's from a different party, I'm going to oppose it. No. Depending on the merits of my argument, you may find that I'm supported by members from the other parties.
The other parties.
And so, in the end result, the bill that comes out, the one that we vote for, it's what we feel in the best interest of the 80 members represents our perspectives, what we think represents the Rwandans.
And that's what is
Why
called
do we get
consensus
satisfied?
politics,
Why do
yes.
we get satisfied?
Yes.
When a minister comes, we put a number of questions to him or her, and there are different stages in which we ask them. Initially, we come and ask them, we write to them the questions we need them to answer. They go and do their research and prepare. They come, not only do they answer the questions, they even tell us what they plan to do about it. We agree on a time, and we usually give them 6 months to rectify it. So once a person presents a workable proposal on how they are going to deal with that issue, why shouldn't we get satisfied?
Okay. So it's not just a matter of saying yes.
No.
Okay. We have only 4 minutes. I want to just jump on the wall here. But Mahoro, we'll start with you probably if you can tell us in closing. The quota system is actually what is actually, seen as the major contributor to the large numbers of women we see in Parliament. 24 out of 80 seats reserved for women. And then all political parties, 30% of that list has to be women. From your own perspective, I mean, do you think we have matured enough to say, remove the quota system and we'll still have a majority women in Parliament?
No. Before I even respond to that, let me first say that it shouldn't appear that we Rwandans say our Parliament as easily get satisfied. But I actually appreciate what Honorable Juliana was saying.
Yes.
We have started to demand more.
Yes.
Because there is something we have seen this Parliament doing.
Yes.
I personally have been in a number of meetings in the far countrysides with MPs doing some work, working with the citizens to understand the issues. However, what we're saying is, let's do more.
Yes.
We don't see serious standing committees not doing research. Now, coming back to the quota system, I think it's not yet time. As we mentioned, we are working into a very particular context. We are a post-genocide country. So having experienced such an extreme violence level, we need to be able to lift up some categories of Rwandans.
So
and that's
not yet
one way.
time to kick it out. Let's read these tweets very quickly. Dr. Elvis, because we don't have much time to go. One of the consequences is that most of the MPs are not known, and whether or not they are active during Parliament debates, they can still re-elect next time as long as they influence, they have an influence in their party. I think this is on the issue of the constituency base versus the list. I have Edwin Musoni right here, who was actually saying Josephine of Action Aid wants the next Parliament to exploit the numbers and jealously front the interests of women. I believe so too. Mothers deserve special attention. Thank you for that. One here from Vanessa Rukundo says, I agree with Amahoro, who says that indeed the representatives need to be advocating mostly for them than they represent, or that they represent. Focus is everything. Lack of focus leads to zero achievement. They need to always be on in focus. Another one right here is same one from Vanessa says, loading. I hope we can be able to have this before Alice tells me that we need to go. Maybe we can be taking quickly the final thoughts. Mama Josephine, the next parliament or the kind of parliament you want, apart from what we've spoken for over the last 55 minutes, what do you want as we move forward? Very briefly.
I want the incoming parliament to also use media and involve so that what their discussions are actually being followed in the media,
right, so
that they also get from the citizens directly,
right,
not waiting to get there.
Right, perfect. Mheshimiwa Munyeneza, what do you want?
From the next parliament?
Yes.
A parliament that addresses the issues of Rwanda as Rwanda.
Right.
And a parliament that is inclusive. And I'm happy that so far I can see that coming up.
Right. And before I let you go, I mean, there's the issue of the observers. 2,000 local and about 300 international.
Yes.
Of what significance are they to us? Whatever recommendations they make are going to follow, because the past election we had, the presidential, there was an observer mission that actually said the music that is played at these polling stations is destructive. Are we going to see this as part of implementation?
Most of the people that say that are not Rwandans. The Rwandans understand that and the value of that.
Right.
But however, we listened to them and we made some improvements here and there.
Right.
But it goes with the transparent nature of our governance system and
right,
the way we manage our elections. And that's why in the first place, we even accept these international and local observers. We've got some countries where these people are not welcome. So we value their contributions, we value their ideas, the reports that we get. But the issue of music playing around, and it's an issue of understanding the context. But for us, we think that's how it should look like, and that's why in Rwanda, on polling day, we're almost everywhere celebrating. We say it's a big day. It's a celebration day. While in some countries, people are fighting.
It's the opposite.
There is no room for music. That's
right,
why sometimes they say such things.
Right. So what do Rwandans need to know, very briefly as we go?
Rwandans need to prepare for these elections. First of all, we are calling upon them to come out in very large numbers, as they have been doing. And they should trust us as the National Electoral Commission. We are there for them. We are not there for anybody. We are there to deliver a very free, fair, and credible election as always. And we are promising them that immediately after elections, we shall make sure that we come out with what we have transpired. And we are promising Rwandans not more than 48 hours.
Yes.
We should have announced who has won the election, so that Rwandans go back to their own
businesses. 48 hours,
yes,
the election. Will there be a holiday? Will it be a holiday or not? Or it's too early to tell?
No, it's too early, and that's not the job of the Electoral Commission.
Perfect. Of course, we know the Twitter handle to always be watching for that particular announcement. It will be sad if I don't give you a chance to just also give us a closing remark on what you expect from your successors.
Yeah, as
very briefly,
in closing, let me first of all agree with my sister Josephine. Right now, I personally, sitting here, I know that there's so much waiting at home that I need to go out to attend to. So the issue of women doing too much work compared to the men is still an issue.
Right.
And because of the tradition, and the tradition is as it was as ever before. Well, I must admit here we haven't done much work about it.
Do you expect the
but
new
I'm
ones
excited to be joining her in civil society, and we shall continue doing something about it, because it's a process. It cannot come in just one day.
Right.
We've done so much in terms of promoting gender equality. Patriarchy is still an issue. I agree with her. I must concede to that. And it's not that we fail to do much about it, but a lot needs to be done, and a lot of homework needs to be done. So that's why I'm excited joining her. For the next parliament, I would want them to, I believe we've created a certain momentum. I'm so excited about what I'm seeing from the young people. Since a more useful parliament is coming, we expect them to do much better than us.
Right.
We've done well, I believe, because whatever we've done has built this economy, has built the peace we have, has built. So we would want them to sustain it and do even further.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Of course, that's the time we had. Liz is telling me we need to wrap up. And of course, who am I not to obey? Thank you so much for watching and being part of In Focus. It's one of the most interactive talk shows. Let's keep talking. When the conversation ends in these four walls, it continues online on social media. Hashtag, as always, In Focus RW. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. Good night.
Rondair, renowned for its tremendous ability to fulfill your dreams, invites you to connect more with your friends and family in Europe with 3 weekly flights to Brussels, one of the most popular cities for the African diaspora. Take advantage of the exquisite service on board our punctual flights, connecting you to over 22 other destinations in our fast-growing network.
Rondair, fly the dream of Africa.
Well, hello there. It is the 5th day of August, and is hoping that you had yourselves a lovely wind down to your weekend. Let's go straight to what made our top stories tonight. President Paul Kagame has urged Rwandans to learn from the culture and the ways of their ancestors because it will help them to be achievers. The mayor of the city of Tunis in Tunisia has commended the Car-Free Day initiative and says she intends to start a similar program back in Tunis.